Assalamu alaikum viewers. Today we shall be discussing an ingredient that we all like to use but are unaware of the consequences of having too much of it or not knowing how much is enough for us. To discuss that, I have with me in the studios today Mr. Muhammad Asim Gul, who is a holistic health coach, and he's certified from the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, New York, United States. Sir, I would like to begin and ask you, this ingredient that we all use every day is sugar. I mean, we consume it from the time we begin our day with our cup of coffee or tea, and then throughout the day we use it when we drink soft drinks and we eat sweets and stuff. So all these things that we ingest on a daily basis consumes quite a significant amount of sugars. How much of it is actually enough for us?
All right, first of all, thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure. And we keep hearing about how, food is really the medicine, and what we consume on a daily basis does impact us and how, what we do with it, right? So you were asking me a question regarding the safe level of consumption, and we're consuming sugar in all the foods that starting from our breakfast to lunch and dinner and during snacking as well. So according to American Heart Association, the safe level of consumption of sugar is limited at 9 teaspoons for men, which is roughly 36 grams, and 6 teaspoons for women, which is 24 grams. So now think of it this way. If you are drinking 4 cups of tea, which is pretty normal for a lot of people, with 2 teaspoons in every cup, which already makes it 8 teaspoons of sugar.
Right.
And then there are so many other things that have sugars in them, and most of the times it's hidden, what we call a hidden ingredient in a lot of products. We either don't know, we don't look at the nutrition labels, and we end up consuming all of those products. So okay, give us an example. Like, I mean, a lot of people would not think about sugar when they eat a slice of bread, but a slice of bread does have sugar in it. It does, right? So a slice of bread has a lot of sugar, and I guess sometimes we just think of it as our breakfast item, thinking that it's going to really fill us up, and it doesn't have any sort of sugar. So there's so many types of sugars that go into it. But again, coming back to knowing all those products that we are consuming, it's important to know that each and every item is looked at carefully, the nutrition labels and the ingredients that are going into it. So you will see each and every of these items has a lot of sugars, right?
So you're saying on a daily routine when we eat food, so we eat pasta, we eat rice, all these things apparently have sugars.
That's true.
Right? And we don't necessarily know how many teaspoons are we consuming, and if we have crossed that threshold of the 9 teaspoons or 8 teaspoons for men, and women it's 6 teaspoons. So if people add extra sugar on a daily basis in their diet, how does that actually affect them, both in the short term and in the long run?
So see, there is a safe level of consumption of sugar that is recommended by, as you said, American Heart Association. So that consuming that amount of sugar is something that your body needs, right? Your body needs sugar for energy. People are exercising, working out. To just run our daily operations, we do need some level of sugar. But consuming more than that, it's what is causing lots of problems. One of the major health complications is what we call diabetes,
right?
And it's leading to the weight gain and obesity, and which just starts a ripple effect of all the health problems that we start seeing every day of our lives. With obesity, we are seeing so many other chronic problems. More weight is being led on our joints, which is causing arthritis. So it just goes on and on. I think it's something as simple as just understanding the amount of sugar that you're consuming,
right,
which is leading to weight gain, which is leading to diabetes and all the wave of chronic problems.
Right.
So
like with a normal lunch or dinner, most people tend to consume a can of soda or carbonated, I mean, these soft drinks, whatnot. The sizes are varying. I mean, sometimes you get a 300 milliliter can or a 250 milliliter bottle, and all of them, I mean, on average have sugar. I mean, and these sugars are basically more than the daily recommended intake for one person.
That is
right?
true. So,
Right.
I have some facts when it comes to soda. So, we see different types of sodas and different brands. So, the amount of sugars that these, let's just consider a standard can of 300 ml or 330 ml of any soft drink. It has around 36 to 46 grams of sugar. So, going back to the recommended amount of 36 grams, if you are consuming one can of soda, you're already surpassing that limit that you have
Right.
for
Right.
your daily recommended
Right.
value.
Right.
And I think most of the people who do consume sodas, it's not just one can for them.
Right.
It's a couple of them.
Right.
And then there are a lot of other products that they are also eating on the side, which
Right.
has a lot of sugars in it.
Like a candy bar, a chocolate bar.
Candy bars.
Yeah.
Let's say look at the example of candy bars. Most of the chocolates, I think I think sort of came across and we ate growing up, or we see a lot of young children eating out there. They're 60% sugars.
Right.
So talking about just the chocolates.
Yes.
Now, chocolate itself is a very good, healthy product, good for your
Without the
body.
sugar.
Without the
Dark
sugar.
chocolate is good
without
for you.
chocolate. The dark chocolate, which is basically coming from the cacao
Right.
plant, and that's something that is very good for your heart.
Right.
It has antioxidants, which is really good for overall freeing radicals. Controlling the free radicals in your body. But when it's loaded with the 60% sugar, it just kills the essence,
Exactly.
right?
Right.
And again, so with that go all the packaged juices as well.
Right.
So a lot of brands that you would see labeling their products as 100% pure, all natural, rich in vitamins.
Right.
But these juices as well are loaded with like 7 teaspoons of sugar themselves, which is like a 200 to 240 ml pack I'm talking about. Right? So these are something that we just have, just picking it up and like drinking one pack or one can here and there, eating a candy bar, really not being mindful of how much are we consuming on a daily basis. And according to one source, so as I said, there's a 36 teaspoons is the recommended amount of sugar that must be consumed on a daily basis. There was a survey done in America, and I think that most of it just does apply to our country as well and rest of the world, which said the average US adult is actually consuming around 92 grams of sugar per day.
Okay.
Three times.
Three times.
But even that is too much. Like just staying at that recommended amount is something that is needed for healthy functioning of our body.
Right.
So when you are doing it, it's not just a one-off thing. When you're doing it on a regular basis, it's just
Accumulates.
it just accumulates, right? It's changing the biochemistry
Right.
inside your body. It's changing how your mind functions. It changes how the toxins inside your body are gathering up. The fat is being accumulated, and which is causing all the health complications.
So when you put extra sugar in your body tries to break it down with insulin, right?
Yes.
So there's only enough insulin that can target certain amount of sugar, but then when you have too much sugar, there's the insulin in your body is not able to basically convert that sugar into something that your body can easily absorb, right?
Exactly. So let's just understand the concept of insulin resistance. How does insulin resistance happen as a lock and key hypothesis? So, insulin is like a key, and our fat cells, which are acting as insulin receptors, which the key gets, attached to,
Mhm.
is the lock,
Right.
right? So what's happening is that this insulin, which is sort of acting as a key, opening the lock to let all the glucose in your blood into the cells, because cells need glucose for energy. Your blood doesn't.
Right.
So whatever we are eating and our blood is absorbing it, it should go eventually into our cells to get the energy. So what happens is that when those fat cells are being fed with this key, the lock is being opened, the glucose is let inside into the cells. At a certain point, when there's too much glucose that is running in our bloods, the lock stops working. It becomes dysfunctional. So now what pancreas does is it it secretes more and more insulin. It releases more and more insulin. So, that it just creates this vicious cycle, more insulin, more impact on the lock. So the lock basically loses its shape. When the lock loses its shape, the key stops working. And when the key stops working, the glucose that we have, or the sugars that we have, are just left in our blood, which just elevates the blood, your glucose levels, and eventually leads to diabetes. Right. So this is how it functions.
Right. So when we talk about the foods, we missed out on like these added sauces. I mean, when you eat pasta or you eat a burger, you add ketchup in it, or soy sauce in Chinese food, and I mean all these kinds of sauces, and they all have preservatives. They all have sugars in them, and some of these brands also market themselves as using sugar substitutes. So how healthy are these sugar substitutes anyways?
So the irony of just talking about sauces, the irony is that tomato sauce doesn't have any tomatoes in it. First of all, right? It's all artificial paste that we're taking and adding lots of salt and sugar to give it that taste that is appealing to our taste buds. So normal serving of of tomato ketchup would be 2 tablespoons, let's say. That contains a lot of sugar. 2 tablespoons is literally like, it does have around 1 to 2 teaspoons of sugar, the sauce itself. So all types of sauces that you have in the market, if you just take up any of the bottles and look at the ingredients, you will see that sugar is one of the first few ingredients that you will see there, right? And so you talked about sugar substitutes, right? So I mean, when people are told that sugar is not good for them, and the media understands that, people understand, the food companies understand that they need to market their products in a way which is appealing to them, not just for their taste, but also in terms of like health. What catches the eye.
So they're addressing you're diabetic, you don't need sugar, so we created a product for you which is sugar free, so you can have it.
Exactly. So they would put labels like 0 calorie, sugar free, what you call, I don't know, like all these labels that you see, 0 calories and 0 sugar. They basically are trying to say that our products are healthy, they do not have any sugars. Also, you're the one who was afraid of getting diabetic, so this is the right product for you, right? So they're adding these sugar substitutes, which are like pretty common, like aspartame and saccharin and sucralose, some of the basic artificial sweeteners that you would see. And the problem is that they're trying to mimic the effect of sugar, right?
On your taste buds.
On your taste buds, right? So you see how these artificial sweeteners are literally around 500 to 1,000 times sweeter than normal sugar. And but they don't have any calories. The normal sugar that we eating does have a lot of calories.
Because these are chemically created products, man-made.
Exactly. These are all synthetic.
These are
all synthetic sugars. So when you're eating them, they're giving you the sweet taste, but they're not giving you any calories. They're not giving you any energy, right? So when they go into your body, and the signal goes to your brain that something sweet has come through, but it's not really fulfilling enough, because you're not getting energy, you're not getting any calories. So the reward pathways are not functioning the way they would in a normal sugar consumption system. So your body is craving more and more food. So although it's not getting those calories, extra calories from these sweeteners, but it's craving more and more food. It's feeling unsatisfied. So it would reach out to all the other foods out there and end up overeating. So that cycle continues and leads to people eventually eating more than they would usually.
Right. Okay. So that ends up like you basically end up eating more food, and that's another factor that causes obesity, because you don't know when to stop. Your brain is not getting the answer from the body telling it, oh, you've had enough, we don't need more.
You don't need more. So when it comes to obesity, we see it's a major problem today. But how does it really work? Why do people get fat? We know that overeating at a certain point, we are not physically active. We're eating all these processed foods with lots of sugars and artificial ingredients, which are not actually giving us the nutrients. So the body is not feeling fulfilled, and it's reaching out for more and more and more. Now, what eventually happens is that all the obese people have what you call, there's a very common neurotransmitter that you must have come across is dopamine.
Yes.
Right, so dopamine is that neurotransmitter which is activated when you are rewarded, when there's an achievement that you have unlocked, or sometimes with food as well. So if you feel satisfied with some food, your dopamine levels will get elevated. So what happens in obese people is that their dopamine D2 receptors are often what you call down-regulated. They are not being activated at the point that they should for any normal person. So what eventually happens is that since the dopamine levels are down, these people are feeling more and more unfulfilled with the food that they're eating. So that's when this cycle starts, and they start reaching out for more food.
Right.
They eat more,
Right.
right? When they eat more, dopamine level goes further down.
Right.
Because again, they're becoming fatter. As they're becoming
Right.
more fat,
Right.
they are being less rewarded. They feel less rewarded. They're reaching out for more food, and it just keeps going on and on and on.
And what are the foods that they normally reach for? That's the time when they reach for comfort food, like anything that has more sugar and more fat in it.
Yeah, exactly. So obese people generally, their biochemistry and what their mind is wired in such a way that they're actually reaching out for all these ultra processed foods, right? Because these ultra processed foods give them the same satisfaction that they got from when they were consuming some of them.
Right.
You understand? So there was a study done on rats, in one of these labs, and we've been doing a lot of studies on rats, and seeing that
Yes,
how
yes.
they respond to all of these things. So there was a study done on rats, and they were fed with all these processed foods with lots of sugar and salt, and it turned out that their anxiety levels went up as they started consuming a lot of processed foods, and with that they lost their appetite for whole foods. So you're answering your question, what are the foods that obese people generally reach out to is the ones which they feel are going to be more rewarding for their system, which are not whole foods. They've lost their appetite for all the bland, tasteless, what you call less sweet, less salty foods.
Right.
It's the foods that they're reaching out more of with the processed, with lots of sugar and salts. Right, and it's just like it's functioning like any drug out there. So you've got some of it, now you need more of it. Right? You must have heard of the antibiotic resistance as well. As you
Right.
start taking more antibiotics, the
Yeah, your
bacteria in our
bod-
bodies
right.
become resistant
Exactly.
to that, and then you need a heavier dose.
Heavier dose.
That actually applies to not just all drugs, but applies to sugar as well.
Right.
So that's how I see sugar is the most socially acceptable drug, and it's readily available.
Right.
Right, there's no stopping anybody.
And there's no social stigma as such on it.
There's no
either.
social stigma. Like
Right.
take an example. Like you can smoke a cigarette maybe with your friends a couple of times. That's fine, but you can't do it with your family all the time. Like a lot of families will not appreciate you
Right,
smoking.
right,
You
right.
cannot consume alcohol
Right.
so openly, in this society. But when it comes to consumption of sugar, which is like literally all over the place, like what we see in so many products out there, nobody's stopping you from having sugar.
Right.
So it is the most socially acceptable drug because it's actually having the same impact on your mind that any other drug would.
Right.
Right. And I personally feel it's like a fine line between drugs and sugar, because there's another study done on rats in which they were basically given an option to choose between cocaine and sugar sweetened solution, which wasn't even sugar solution, it was saccharin, which was just talked about as an artificial sweetener, and they chose saccharin over cocaine. And what they did was to further see how adamant these rats are to get to this sugar solution. They kept both of these, cocaine and saccharin solutions, behind one of this electric shock channel which they were passed through. And when they were passed through the electric shock channel, they stopped themselves from reaching out for cocaine, but they couldn't really stop themselves from reaching out for saccharin, which shows that the craving that they had for saccharin was way more intense
Right.
than it was for cocaine.
Right. So they were basically to get hurt in the process of getting it.
Exactly. And they did not really stop themselves, because that's something that was really important what they felt was important for their bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And so, to understand how important the impact of sugar is on our minds. And we see products like cigarettes and alcohol, which were advertised for some time, promoted with all these what you call celebrities.
Right.
But now what we see is, if you look around, so they're not being promoted anymore. What is being promoted? Now we see these sodas, these candy bars, these packaged juices. These are the ones that are being promoted by all of the celebrities and healthy people consuming out there, to give us this impression that these products are actually good for us when they're not. Right, so when we idolize all of these celebrities and sports personalities and athletes out there, we say, okay, so if they are consuming, and I would give you an example of energy drinks, let's say. So energy drinks, they advertise them as really replenishing the electrolytes that you have lost while working out. And if Cristiano Ronaldo or a lot of other sportsmen out there are consuming these, then you're going to get the same energy and it's going to be beneficial for you. But it's very important for all the people who are watching this to really look at the ingredients and just see how much sugar is there in it. Is that what you need? Is because I personally feel sugars are important for us, as we talked about, right? But they should never be consumed in a liquid form. It's just bottom line, don't consume sugars in a liquid form, even if it's a fresh orange juice, which a lot of people sometimes drink few glasses of.
Yeah, we drink juices all the time.
Unmindfully, right? Thinking of like, it's going to be very healthy and nutritious, because we say, okay, we're going to get our dose of vitamin C and all the minerals and vitamins. Yes, you will. You will get your vitamin C, but you just need as much as one serving of orange, like one orange, to give you enough vitamin C for your daily recommended amount. And the real thing is the fiber that you're eating with that orange, which slows down the absorption of glucose in your bloodstream. So when you're consuming freshly squeezed orange juice, it's just a lot of sugars that are going down in your system with no system of regulation, without any slowdown in the regulation and the absorption. And it's just a sugar rush that you get after this, which is the same as any soft drinks and juices.
Right, because over here we also drink sugarcane juice is pretty common. So a sugarcane, when you go out and get a sugarcane juice in a cup or whatnot, there's a whole bunch of like 2-3 whole sticks of sugarcane go in the machine, and then you get a cup out of it, right? But if you try to eat and basically chew on the sugarcane, cut it, and you cannot eat that much sugarcane as much as there is in that cup. So basically your body is like, well, you can't chew that much, so you cut down on your intake.
Yeah, that is true. I personally feel there is like a huge gap of knowledge that people really need to understand. So people have been told, as with 0-calorie drinks, as with freshly squeezed juice, and as also with the example of let's take flavored yogurt that you're buying off the supermarket shelves. They say yogurt is good because they heard somewhere, and I mean that's how it's advertised. It has probiotics, it has vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K, and all the vitamins that your body needs. In what amounts? First of all, you don't know that. But what else is going in that yogurt, especially in the flavored yogurt I'm talking about, it's a lot of sugars. So if this yogurt advertised as strawberry flavored yogurt, mango flavored yogurt, that is not the real strawberry and mango. It's like some mango puree or strawberry puree which is added to it, which is just a lot. And I was just reading, and it says in like half a cup of flavored yogurt, and most of the ones that you can buy at the supermarket shelf, it has around 24 grams of sugars, which is the amount that any woman out there needs in a day. Right. So that's a lot of sugar.
That's a lot of sugar. But I mean, naturally there is some sugar in yogurt. But I've seen even these packages which are not even flavored yogurt, even these plain yogurts, they actually have sugar added in it.
They are. So the natural sugar that is in yogurt is the one that is coming from lactose.
Right.
All the dairy products have this natural sugar coming from lactose, but we're really talking about the added sugars, and they're added primarily in all of these products to increase their shelf life.
Yes.
Let's take normal yogurt that you are getting from the open market, like you keep it out on the table or even in your refrigerator, it will go bad in a couple of days. But when you keep this yogurt, which is packaged, flavored with artificial sweeteners and flavors and chemicals, it will not go bad for a couple of days,
Yeah.
and you can keep eating whenever you like.
Right.
So, you
So
know,
it's basically a preservatives in
it
it,
is.
and sugar acts as a preservative as well.
Exactly. So
Right.
sugar, salt, and fat, these three highly palatable foods or highly palatable ingredients are used all over the world as the most common preservatives. And that's not just going to preserve the shelf life of these products, but also giving it that taste, which hits the bliss point. You know, the bliss point is that point where people find something very appealing to their taste buds. And food scientists are hired for, you know, really hitting that bliss point in all of the products. So all of the products that you see, especially when the ones that are targeting children, breakfast cereals, right? All the granola bars and the oatmeal bars that you can get on the market. Just read the ingredients and see the amount of sugars that these have. And the candy bars that we already talked about, targeting children, they know growing up, children are very sensitive to all of these products, and once that, you know, taste hits their taste buds, they are not going to go for anything else. You keep all the fruits in front of them, they're definitely going to go for that candy bar that is lying next to them on that table.
Right. Right.
So
So what can be like? How can we avoid this? Like, I mean, what should be best practices that we should incorporate in our lives and that in the lives of our families? So I mean, we can avoid these long-term consequences.
yeah, so I mean, you know, the problem what I see with sugars all over the world and of all the artificial ingredients is the food climate that has been created around us. It's like a web that we have been into, and it's very difficult to go out of because we are being exposed to all types of commercials and marketing, you know, advertisements from all of these food companies. It's very difficult to really go out of this web. So I personally feel the starting point should be for us to educate ourselves and really see what are we consuming on a daily basis. How are our loved ones really looking at it? Are we really mindful about the amount of sugar that we're eating every day? Are we looking at the nutrition labels and the ingredients in the products that we are eating every day? So I think that's where we start on the micro level, right? So when it goes on a macro level, improving the food climate, I think I personally feel how there's a disclaimer being put on cigarettes as like smoking kills. And there should be some regulation done on all these food companies on the amount of sugar and artificial ingredients that they are putting in their products, which are causing a lot of harm, you know, to us as a society. And it's just you know, uncontrollable, right?
No, I think yeah, that would be ideal, of course, but I don't see that happening in the, I mean, foreseeable future. But I've seen it in other countries that they are putting the sugars per serving on the labels, or they're making it more visible than they used to. But even with the serving sizes, I mean, they're not consistent. I mean, every product has their own way of determining what's the serving size of a product. So, and a lot of times when a product has like multiple servings in it, but it's normally a package that one person would eat in one serving, and they're thinking that they're eating less sugars, but they're not actually reading the label properly, and they're not seeing that there's not actually one serving in it, but it's like divided into 3 or 4
That
or
is
2.5 or whatnot.
That is true. So
Yeah.
that's where the food companies are really playing with the minds of the consumers, right? And the package says sometimes amount of sugar per serving. Serving says 2 tablespoons. So we see, okay, 2 tablespoons has around 5 grams of sugar, not bad. But generally we are surpassing that limit, as you said. Same is the case with most of the juices out there. And so, you know, putting these labels and putting these what you call amounts and what you call numbers on such products, where it says you're going to have 100 ml of 100 ml of a packaged juice, and you're going to leave the rest. That's not going to happen. Most of the people would take a pack of juice and just drink all of it. So they're not getting the amount of sugar that is written as in 100 ml, but the total amount which is in a 240 ml. So as consumers, we really need to also look at all of these things and see how much is the amount of sugar that we are consuming once we have finished that product, right?
Right, right. And also like when you go out to a restaurant and you order some drinks, a lot of times you don't actually get a single serving. You just get it in a pitcher or something. How are we to know how much sugar is in one cup when it comes in a pitcher like that?
So that's a very good observation. I think we we've seen these what you call soda dispensers.
Right.
Soda dispensers actually have more sugar in them because they're not the what you call the soda that you're getting from one of the bottles which is being poured into it. It's a lot of other mixing that's happening out there, and if you ever get a chance to taste both the can of soda and the one that is coming out of a dispenser, at the same time you will see that the one that's coming out of a dispenser is sweeter and tastes slightly different, sometimes more appealing to our taste buds right after the food that we are eating, right? And as you said, if you are getting all this pitcher, we don't know if it's a 300 ml or a 500 ml that we end up drinking, right? So the quantities of all of these products is not controlled. We as consumers really need to be open to see what we are consuming and be mindful of what are we doing on a daily basis.
But I think it should be like authorities, basically instructions as for these business owners to basically be upfront about how much sugars there is in an item. Or like, I mean, if you're eating a burger, I mean, how much ketchup is going into it, or you know, like all the other sauces, or even if you put some relish on it, everything has some amount of sugar in it.
Yeah, that's true.
And the buns and the slices of bread that go, I mean, everything.
I think the authorities really need to understand the gravity of the situation at this point, and the amount of sugar that is being consumed by people unknowingly, because it's hidden in most of these products. They would understand the loss that we as is not just as society but as an economy as well are incurring. It's like billions of dollars are lost all over the world just in treating diabetes and obesity related epidemics. And the numbers for Pakistan are soaring. Now if you see people, I think more and more teenagers are becoming obese, and we never saw that before in our country, right? So the authorities really need to understand that they can't just turn a blind eye towards it and be more practical and careful about how they're going to regulate all of these food companies and their marketing campaigns, because if that doesn't happen, then we are just going to lose a lot of lives and a lot of money in this way.
Well, another thing about the economy is, like, if we all decide to cut down our sugar intake by 10 or 20%, we'd have more surplus sugar to export, or we'd need less to import. I mean, that's another.
Definitely. So it's going to, like, holistically, if you look at it, it's going to impact us in a very good way. Like we're going to gain a lot just by understanding the harmful effects of sugar. That's what we are really talking about here.
Right.
And I think you put it really nicely. I think it's what you talk about, like gradual steps, taking baby steps at a time.
Yes.
So if you are drinking, let's say 2 cans of soda, maybe bring it down to 1 soda. If you are consuming 4 cups of tea with 2 teaspoons of sugar in all of them, really cut it down to maybe 1 teaspoon per cup of tea, or like bring it down to 2 cups of tea per day, and you will see that your entire biochemistry changes. So going back to the dopamine example I said, you will see that now you're craving less and less sugar. And I think one other aspect is that when you replace sugar, or not even talking about replacement, when you add more of whole foods, like more fruits, more vegetables, when you add more of these, eventually there's a time that you would start developing a taste for all of these things, and you wouldn't crave all the artificial things that much. So since we're living in a culture where foods and vegetables are really looked down on, I hardly see a lot of people not even eating vegetables on a daily basis, when there's a concept of 5 a day. You heard about like 3 vegetables and 2 fruits per day. I don't think
I don't even think people eat 1 a day. Most people don't. I mean, some people.
We are like those meat-loving people and carnivorous that we have been in nature. But we're reaching out for meat And if there is anything that we are consuming for fruit, is mostly fruit juices.
But our bodies need a completely balanced nutrition. Like, I mean, they need our body needs a little bit of everything. So if we're not getting it through certain things, then we try to take supplements. But supplements is not a healthy choice. I mean,
Supplements are just, you know, synthetically made, and they're targeting some of the nutrients only in that case when your body is deficient in those nutrients. But primarily, you can get most of the nutrients from the food itself. Like there's some nutrients that are not being made readily in our body, primarily because of the lifestyle that we have. This example of vitamin D. But besides that, I think most of the supplements are not doing any good to your bodies. As long as you are eating a good, well-balanced diet, you don't need any supplements.
but most of these supplements don't actually have the supplements that they claim that they have anyways. I mean, there was researchers done on it and said 60% of the supplements in the market don't actually have what they claim to have in them.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's a billion-dollar industry
Right.
running on like just, you know,
it's pretty much
printing-
unregulated anyways.
printing
Yeah.
new labels and bringing in new products every single day of our lives that we see around.
Right.
Well, the real thing is that if you are eating your fuel, if you're getting your fuel from the food that you're eating, food you have on a plate, you don't need any supplements, honestly.
Well, that seems like a topic for another discussion. I really appreciate you coming here and giving us the insight on this ingredient that we all consume, and we just don't know when to stop and how much is enough for us. Really appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
Hopefully our audience also learned something beneficial from it. And with that, we end this program. Hope to see you soon.